talk about this evening, and I just want to let you know that everyone here is part of history. We're in some really trying times right now, and all of you people that have come out to come take time away from your friends and family is very much appreciated. Now we're going to start off with a prayer. Please stand. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing these people out here today to fight back against the tyranny that has besieged our country. We've been at this for a long time now, and some of us are weary, and we wonder if there's going to be an end. We know that it is your will, that we serve your will, and that we must continue to fight on for our country. Please watch over us, watch over our friends and our family members. Give them the heart to understand what we do when we're out there on these long hours and we're fighting back for this country. Amen. Amen. And now we'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. Now, in case some of you haven't realized, I've been a little sick lately, so I'm going to take a seat over here, and we want to talk for a minute. Now, the reason why we're here tonight, well, listen to the founder's quote. Once the government is committed to the principle of silencing the voice of opposition, it only has one way to go, and that is down the path of increasing the repressive measures, until it becomes a source of terror to all of its citizens and creates a country where everyone lives in fear. And then, now I won't do it as great as Ted Cruz did it, but I just want to read this to you guys. The Travis letter. To the people of Texas and all Americans of the world, fellow citizens and compatriots, I am besieged by 1,000 or more of the Mexicans under Santa Anna. I have sustained a continual bombardment and cannonade for 24 hours and have not lost a man. The enemy has demanded a surrender at discretion, otherwise the garrison are to be put to the sword if the fort is taken. I have answered the demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly from the walls. I shall never surrender or retreat. Then I call on you in the name of liberty, of patriotism, and everything dear to American character, to come to our aid with all dispatch. The enemy is receiving reinforcements daily and will no doubt increase to 3,000 or 4,000 in 4 and 5 days. If this cause is neglected, I am determined to sustain myself as long as possible and die like a soldier who never forgets what is due to his own honor or that of his country. Victory or death. Now the reason why this is so important, especially today, is because we're in these same situations right now. It started off with just the IRS targeting conservative groups that were out there applying for nonprofit status. The next thing you know, people were starting to get audited, and increasingly intrusive questions were being asked. No one started to connect the dots at first. And then all of a sudden it's hit the waves, and people started to realize this was a concerted effort to target conservative. And one of them was our leader, Catherine Engelbrecht. How many of you guys saw her on C-SPAN when she testified? I have never seen such grace and dignity and just true patriotism. I was proud, I was angry, I was glad to be an American that day because a mom, a regular person just like us, was out there saying that she would not be silenced. She would not let the government put their thumb on her and hold her down. And that took a lot of courage. But at the same time, it's courage like that that led us here today because they don't want that. Do you remember what happened when we were trying to pass health care? And everywhere there was these contentious town halls across the country. The liberals were freaking out. They didn't know what to do. What they thought when Obama came into office is they were going to pass health care, pass, cap and trade, card check, all these things within the first 100 days, and everything would be fine. But we fought back, and we continued fighting. And that was a long, hard battle. And they eventually won, but not without bodies and blood shed on both sides. And that's why I think this plan has come into action. When I was on the left, they used the 501c3s, the nonprofits. Money was laundered back and forth. Groups like Project Vote, which was a C3, would get taxes and donations and give it to Acorn, which was a C4, and they would go out and do partisan political activity. 527s were coordinated with candidates, campaigns, and nonprofits. Everyone worked together, and the IRS turned a blind eye. There were comments and calls for investigation, and no one did anything because they knew that this was for them to build power. Now, once they've gotten their power and they've solidified their base and they're trying to build a progressive majority that will last for the next 5 to 6 decades, they want to silence us with these new proposed regulations. Think about it. The candidate forums, appealing to your congressman, if we were to go out and we were to say, hey, stop Obamacare, repeal Obamacare, all of these things would be stopped if you're a 501c3 a C4 organization. Imagine what that would look like when your hands are tied and handicapped. We've got some groups here that you're familiar with, groups that are working in these communities every single day, groups that you give your money to, groups that you get emails from. They want to get up here and tell you what will happen if these proposed regulations come through. It will be the end of the conservative movement. It will be the end of any type of opposition, and they will railroad us, and they will push through all of these initiatives that they've been trying to get through for the past 5 years. So what can we do? This is a site that Catherine Engelbrecht put together, WeWillNotBeSilenced.org. You can go here, you can see Catherine's testimony, you can get sample comments to send to the website, and you can click right there from that website to go to the IRS's website and submit your comments. This is why we're here tonight, because we will not be silenced. Example of a comment. I mean, it's very simple. It doesn't take, it takes like 5 minutes to do, but we only have a limited amount of time until February 27th to put these comments out there. And the more comments that we put, the better, because they have to answer every single one before these regulations go into place. So if we got 1 million, they have to answer 1 million. If we got 2 million, they have to answer 2 million. So let's see if we can get this out to our friends and family. And that's what makes tonight so unique. This is not just us sitting here talking about it. We are calling you to action right now from this stage, right over there. We have computers set up there and there. After the event, please come and submit your comments. It just takes a couple of seconds. We spend so much time after the events talking and chatting. Let's do it from over there while we're submitting our comments, because we will not be silenced. So I'm going to bring up our first speaker, and she's from Freedom Works and Texas GOP Vote. Her name is Kelly Horsey. She's going to tell you a little bit about what will happen on the national level to some of the programs that we really love. Thank you.
Hello. It's awesome to be here. Thank you for having me. I see back here we're surrounded by founders' quotes, and I have one of my own that's a personal favorite. I thought it was appropriate to share with you guys tonight. It's from Sam Adams. If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. The feds and the IRS would love that, wouldn't they? To bind us in chains. They would make it so that you or I or any other conservative organization out there would be silenced and essentially chained. And I won't stand by for that, will you? No. We will not be silenced. No. So our favorite agency in the whole world has not only been targeting conservative Tea Party groups so that they may not obtain a 501c4 status, now once you have it, they want to continue to make your life miserable. And here's some information that I found that basically sums it up pretty good. An article from ChristianPost.com. It's under the proposed new rules, the IRS is attempting to draw a distinction between what is considered activities done to benefit society, or social welfare, and activities that are political. Activities that are considered non-social good election activities, what the IRS calls candidate-related political activity, would be greatly expanded, thus limiting the ability of 501c4s to engage in them. Informing voters about the voting record or issue positions of candidates, for instance, would not be considered an activity done to benefit society. But candidate-related political activity. Efforts to get people registered to vote and to encourage them to vote would also not be considered a social good. It's pretty sad. Many 501c4 groups have complained, though, that informing voters, registering voters, and getting voters to the polls is a social good. I would tend to agree with that. Even the ACLU has spoken out against these changes. Imagine that. Conservatives and ACLU agreeing on something. This is a quote from Gabe Rotman, their legislative counsel. The proposed rules could pose a significant chilling effect on issue advocacy engaged in by many nonprofits. They would also disproportionately affect small, poor nonprofits that cannot afford the legal counsel to guarantee compliance with the new rules. We fear that faced with such uncertainty and needing to maintain their C4 status, they would opt to just keep their mouths closed. They would like to do that to us, wouldn't they? The rules also would fail to stop the groups they were meant to crack down on, as they would still be able to engage in a certain amount of actual partisan electioneering without disclosing their members. The proposed rules thus create the worst of all worlds. So, why do you think they want to shut FreedomWorks down? Because we win. Our message wins. Limited government, lower taxes, free markets win. And let's think about FreedomWorks for a minute. Think about all the work that they do. Sounds like to me the IRS is trying to say that if you like your FreedomWorks, you can keep your FreedomWorks. How many of us here are joined up on Freedom Connector? Raise your hands. Freedom Connector, you guys are familiar with that? It's an alternative to Facebook. I'm going to guess we probably couldn't keep Freedom Connector either if these regulations were passed. Think about all of the informative boot camps that FreedomWorks puts on, fly-in boot camps for activists to become better activists. That would probably disappear as well. How many of us benefited when FreedomWorks stepped in and endorsed a guy named Ted Cruz? Right? Yes, absolutely. Love those cardboard cutout town halls? Yeah, no more of those either. No more rallies? How about Battleground Texas? Anybody here heard of Battleground Texas? Boo. FreedomWorks has seen the danger of their attempt to turn Texas blue, and they put together Come and Take It. If those regulations were passed, we could kiss that goodbye as well. FreedomWorks is definitely on their radar because we win. We must be doing something right, otherwise we wouldn't be under fire. FreedomWorks has a C3, a C4, a traditional PAC, and a super PAC. So these regulations would really affect us. Under these new regulations, FreedomWorks would be forced to refile their status as a 527. That would cause them to come under more scrutiny and could be and would be data mined. So now I ask you, or you ask, what can we do about this? They alluded to a website that you can visit.
What website?
I'm sorry, I'm getting there. Okay, regulations.gov is the website. And I think they've got that set up over there for you guys. And I checked the website myself. I actually haven't commented yet. Okay, there it is, regulations.gov. And as of right now, or as of yesterday, they had 64,000 comments.
Are we all going to get audited?
Are you all going to get audited? I have no idea. But sorry? I'm sorry?
It's not crashing.
No, 64,000 is comments. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but in reality, think about this really.
It's worth the audit to speak up and put your name on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's worth the audit, absolutely. And I read one of the quotes, and I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to share it with you guys tonight. One of the quotes that somebody had put up there, the comments, I guess I should say. They said, after reading about this regulation 134.417-13, I urge the IRS to reject the proposed regulations, which appear to allow the IRS to adopt regulations to achieve the same goals that motivated it to bully conservative organizations and launch intrusive investigation of Tea Party applicants. Hear, hear. It also will stifle the ability of nonprofit groups to inform citizens about the administration's appointments and other issues. Whether it is a Democrat or a Republican administration, our citizens need to hear about the policies, agendas, appointments, philosophies, etc., and not just from the ruling administration. We need to have freedom of speech in the United States, and this will certainly not encourage that freedom. So, again, regulations.gov. Written or electronic comments and requests for a public hearing must be received by February 27th. So I would definitely appreciate and encourage you guys to go over to those computers after the evening is over with and put your comments in. Before I go, like I mentioned before, Freedom Works has a come and take it effort, and I've got some sign-up cards here for y'all, so if you wanted to see me afterwards or whatever on the way out, grab one of these cards and sign up for it, because we definitely need all hands on deck for that effort to keep Texas red. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. The next speaker we're going to have is Kimberly Keys from Americans for Prosperity. Now, while she's coming up, keep in mind if you have any questions, there's comments on the back of your chairs. Feel free to write them out. We'll collect them, and at the end, we'll have a question and answer session.
Howdy. Is this on? Can y'all hear me? How's everyone doing this evening? My name is Kimberly Kay, and I'm with Americans for Prosperity, and I can't tell you what an honor it is to be here. In all of my political dealings, I've been fortunate enough to work with Catherine, to work with Anita, and to work with True the Vote. And what they do here is absolutely essential to the integrity of our elections, right? And so in all of my political dealings, I'm relatively young, I'm only 31 years old, but what got me involved in politics to begin with was the fact that I didn't feel like the news and the stories and the information that people should be hearing was readily available. And that's because we've already seen co-opting in the mainstream media by the establishment left and by what Andrew Breitbart loved to call the gray ponytails. No offense to anyone who has a gray ponytail, but I think you know the type, right? So in all of my dealings in the political realm, this is probably the first time I've been legitimately frightened, because there have been policy battle after policy battle after policy battle. There was the recall election in Wisconsin, we all remember that, was incredibly privileged to be able to fight the unions in that with great success, right? And it took people like you taking time out of their day to get on the ground, to go knock doors, to get on the phone, and really mobilizing their communities into action. But what the IRS is trying to doing is the only time since I've been politically active or politically aware that I've been genuinely frightened. I'm a student of history, and when you watch how regimes, and I understand that's kind of a strong word to use, but it's accurate, right? Would we agree that that's how this is looking? Because
a commie regime.
They're communists. So, I mean, there's
like a criminal political class.
That works too. I think I'm with that. But as I mentioned, the tactics that they're using to intimidate us. Some of you have mentioned being audited. That again is an intimidation tactic. They know that there's so many people that aren't going to go and comment. Prior to getting involved in politics, I worked in immigration law, and I worked with people who were trying to come here legally. God love them, and going through those channels. And anytime you have a regulation that comes out, as Anita mentioned, there is a response time. And we only have until the 27th, which is what, Thursday? Thursday And they are required to respond to every single comment that each and every one of you submit, regardless of what that is. And they have to publish those comments with the final regulations with an explanation as to why they took those comments into consideration or as to why they decided to ignore them. Okay? So this all goes into regulatory history as well, as to if every single one of you, and I'm sincerely hoping you will take this to heart and you will comment, but if every single person in this room were to comment on this, this all goes into our history as to what this government is trying to do. Just to give you a few examples of how this would affect Americans for Prosperity. We have a C3 and we have a C4. So we engage in a lot of different activities. You know, I go and speak to college kids to help them figure out how to organize, how to be involved in politics, how to do these types of things. I wouldn't be able to do that anymore. We wouldn't be able to help college kids get out the vote. We wouldn't be able to hold voter registration drives. I mean, if you look at how those types of things will affect us as a political movement, and it's not just that, if there's anything I've learned about this realm is that this is just a test balloon. Because what they understand is if they can get away with it this time, then that gives them carte blanche for everything else. Because if they can get away with this, whatever they decide to send down the pipe next, we no longer have the ability to mobilize against that without being in violation of government regulation. And that's incredibly frightening. So there's a handful of things I'd like to actually give y'all homework, okay? Because while I think this is a fantastic place, and I'm so encouraged that y'all are taking time away from your families and taking time away from watching House of Cards or whatever it is you enjoy doing, it takes action, right? That's the only thing that's going to make a difference, is to take action. A very good friend of mine always says this, and it's always about, and it always rings in the back of my head. I'm sure you've all heard this, and it's that you can't wait for somebody else because you are somebody else. We're it, guys. There's no other line of defense coming behind us. This is it. This is it. So how much do you care about preserving your right to free speech? Because this is where it starts. It's not just an attack on political organizations. This will ultimately affect our ability to deal with our government. And so what I would encourage you to do, Americans for Prosperity also has a site called blocktheirs.com. That simple. Blocktheirs.com. So if you guys will visit blocktheirs.com, you can make comments there. Then it would also be fantastic. Raise your hand if you have some kind of social media account. Anyone? Okay, that's most of the people in this room. Post something on social media encouraging your friends or followers or family, whatever, to get involved. I mean, even if you have friends that disagree with you politically, as Kelly mentioned, the ACLU finds this very frightening, and it's kind of interesting to watch how they're tending further and further right as the government tends further and further left. But even organizations like the Sierra Club recognize that this is going to severely limit their ability to do what they've been doing for almost 100 years now. But all of that aside, blocktheirs.com, share this with your friends, family, followers on social media, and then tell 5 people. I'm going to challenge you guys, 5 people, not sitting in this room, because that's totally cheating, you guys are all hearing this anyway, but 5 people not sitting in this room. And it's hard. It takes guts to go up to people. You're going to be talking to people in the grocery store line. I travel a lot, and I can't tell you how many fantastic people that I've been able to turn into an activist sitting in an airport, right? You hear them on the phone with someone at home complaining about politics, and I'm going, so I hear you're not really keen on the government. You want to do something about it? So, but tell 5 people, and encourage them to do the same, because quite frankly, 64,000 comments is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. It should easily be 500,000 at this point. So, but as I mentioned, I'm definitely not an alarmist, but this is incredibly frightening because at risk here is our ability to fight back politically in any way, shape, or form at all. And this is where it starts. This is really us here working together to combat this. We are it. This is the last line of defense. As I said, there's no cavalry who's going to come in from the side and save the day. This is it. So I would encourage you all to take action. They've made it very easy for you to do that here, but this is definitely something to take seriously. And again, I'm just incredibly encouraged that you're all here. Again, my name is Kimberly Kay, and I'm with Americans for Prosperity, and I'll hang around a little bit afterwards. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, definitely feel free to find me afterwards. But yes.
Is Block the IRS the same site as we're going to be?
It does redirect to the regulations.gov, and you can do that. You can do it either way, whichever's easiest for you. I think it blocked the IRS. I know that
Regulations.gov, you've got to sign up. And I have found that to be, once I sign up, then I can't find whatever petition I want to sign.
this will, but this should direct you the way, I know, and I'm sure that they have it worked out, but that's something we could take a look at afterwards. Be happy to help you guys walk through that. But again, thank y'all so much for being here, and I mean, as silly as it sounds, thank you for caring. This is all of our futures that are involved, so I'm happy you're here and willing to do something.
Thank you. Next up, we have Phyllis Worsham from the Fort Bend Faith and Freedom.
Faith and Freedom was founded by Ralph Reed in 2009, and their headquarters is in Georgia. If you want to learn more about them, the website is ffcoalition.com. And their main goal is to train people of faith to be effective citizens. A little over 2 years ago, a group of us got together in Fort Bend to start a Faith and Freedom chapter. The people came from Georgia and helped us out with a few events and gave us money. And then 2 years ago, we were planning a big event to train people to be effective by going to their precinct conventions and then on to the state conventions. And somebody gave us $1,000. And so we thought, well, we've got to get us a bank account. And that's, of course, where the problem started. And we kind of have pre-intimidation because we still don't even have a bank account because we didn't have anybody that had enough time and money to hire an attorney. That the bank said, you're going to have to hire an attorney. You're going to have to fill out all these forms and all the length of time that it would take. And so we just opened up a private account and are not tax exempt. And we just had to go that way, and we put our own money into it to put forth our events. Because like I said, we just don't have the time. And so my part here is really brief because we haven't been able to go in that next step to even form to get a tax exempt status on our bank account. At first, the bank didn't even want to open an account for us. We did, though, last Tuesday, have another precinct training event where we trained people to be to attend their precinct conventions and how to write resolutions and that type of thing.
Thank you. And the reason why that's important to understand is that imagine right now there's already so many barriers to groups that want to form and get out there and get active. Think about what will happen once they make the regulations even harder. People are going to get discouraged and they're not going to want to get together and be citizen activists and get out there. So that's just an example of where we are right now. Imagine where we will be 6 months to a year. And so our last speaker is going to wrap it all up and tell you what really happens when the IRS focuses on the little guy for no apparent reason at all. And now we're going to welcome James Ives from the Fort Bend Tea Party.
Good evening, folks. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I know I'm the last speaker, so I'm going to wrap it up pretty quick and let y'all get. Please feel free to go over here and do your comments now. You don't have to wait till I finish speaking. You want to kind of get that, there might be a big line later on, so If anyone gets the nerve, just go over there and just get those comments down for the IRS. I am James Ives with Greater Fort Bend County Tea Party. Let me first of all say, I salute you for being here tonight. I salute everyone who's had run-ins with the IRS, who's had any kind of intimidation, and is still in the fight. I am furious that we have to be here. I love what I do. I've met the best people in the world with the Tea Party movement, Patriot movement, 9/12, but I'm angry that America has come to the point that we have to put down our lives and face our own government down with these improper regulations, the lies, the corruption, both parties. It's outrageous, but Americans have had to do this for centuries. It is our duty as citizens of a free republic to do this. It is our honor to do this. I am proud to do it, and I will be doing this for the rest of my life. I will not be a slave. I will not be a slave. Really quickly, what happens to the little guy? 6 weeks after that great big April 15th of 2009, remember all the rallies, those innocent first days of the Patriot movement? 6 weeks later, emails started coming to the business I worked at, going to the corporate office. We will not go there anymore as long as you employ that man. Because he's Tea Party, specifically. These things were coming in a lot. They were coming through a local newspaper, but it was being filtered through that local newspaper. They were coming from New York City with a daily cost, the Al Gore's group. A New York group looking at a Tea Party leader in Richmond, Texas. That's the length these people will go to stifle opposition, to muzzle we, the people, take away our rights of free speech, free assembly, freedom of association, freedom of religion. They want to tell us where to eat, what to drive, who to associate with. And they're going to take our money as well as they take our freedoms. Fortunately, my higher-ups in the corporate office knew me, sympathized with our cause, so they ignored all those. Later on, I had a different higher-up get moved into position. He did not sympathize with the cause. He suddenly found a reason to let me go. So I was fired for being in the Tea Party. I wouldn't want to work with anyone that would judge me by my politics anyway. I can't, for legal reasons, I can't talk. Restaurant business. That's all I'm going to say.
You're suing.
They're much worse off without me, so I got revenge that way. Anyway, and also there are a lot of good conservative patriots that found out what happened and decided not to frequent that certain establishment anymore. Anyway, roughly a year ago, Tea Party movement's up and running, and we're all doing very well. My wife Melissa and I both had some relatively high-profile positions in Fort Bend County. And it was rumored I was going to run for office. It was not true. I don't know where that rumor started. Not long thereafter, a newspaper article mysteriously appeared, casting aspersions on my name. It was slanderous, accusing me of un-American activities. So this came out. The best thing about it was true colors were shown. I had some people that stood with me, some people that disappeared. Our board is stronger than ever because of that experience. It cemented us. Because we realized again the lengths that people will go to, the true nature of the dark threat that hangs over our nation. When individual citizens can be targeted and lied about, we lost those high-profile jobs in Fort Bend County because of that newspaper article. So that's 2 jobs I've lost and 1 that cost my wife. I'm sorry, honey. But I'm going to keep doing this, and I don't care. Because the end result is too important. The end result is a free America. And a free America means a free world. Now this is, let's hear for the free world. 6 years ago, it would sound stupid to say, as America goes, so goes the world. The freedom of mankind rests upon our generation's shoulders. So I do believe we are the last line of defense. I mean, I think that this is the last generation that can or will put up a fight, that understands those magic words written in the Constitution of the Declaration. The power of saying citizen. That's just not a word. It's a majestic thing. We are privileged and honored. People die to get here, to become a citizen. People have killed and fought, bled, suffered. We've given our young children overseas for freedom, for citizenship. We have to defend that. We have to defend that with everything at our disposal. Now I'm going to wrap up real quick. My dad, World War II fighter pilot, flew P-47. I just lost him last year. In that magic time when the Tea Party movement was just getting off the ground, I remember seeing on TV, this back before the media just went black and didn't talk about us at all. So they were everywhere. The guys in the three-pointed hats and the bags of tea hanging on rearview mirrors those days. Dad and I were sitting down in Portland, Texas, where he retired. We were watching on TV. And there's a big show about one of these rallies being planned. We sat there in silence for a while and watched it. And then when it was turned off, he turned to me, his eyes were moist. He said, son, Mickey, my middle name's Michael. He said, Mickey, I think I have hope for this country again. That one sentence, I carry his flight wings with me. That one sentence propels me and motivates me. My anger motivates me. My fear motivates me. But if they can tear down our website multiple times, they can hack into our system. We have thousands upon thousands of people that we can put e-blasts out to. That list disappears about every 6 months. We had to rebuild it from scratch. Our systems have been hacked. We've been frozen. We've had to go silent for 3 or 4 months at a time. People stop me in the streets and say, have you given up? I say, heck no, I haven't given up. The tools are gone. I can't write letters to everybody. 30,000 letters would be quite a chore. But we keep coming back. We keep rebuilding our contact list. We keep putting up new firewalls, new security. Because we are not going to stop. This movement cannot stop. We are turning the page of history. We are in control. We are the sons and daughters of the revolution. We are not going to go away. We will not be quiet. God bless you all for being here tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Long live the Republic.
All right, everyone. Now, are there any more comments out there that we have not collected? Any more questions? All right, this goes up, and while we're doing that, and we're going to bring the rest of all the speakers back up, but we're also going to pass the hat around right now because, as you know, freedom is not free. So while they're doing that, we can get all the speakers to come back up. And just to go back and just wrap this up while we're doing this, I don't know how many of you guys are aware, but labor unions will not be affected by these new regulations. Yes, keep that in mind. You know, this is something that is very scary. We are the majority in this country. We are being controlled by the minority. We cannot let that continue. I do agree we do need some changes to the IRS regulations, but keep that in mind. We are the majority. So that means that if we can get all of those votes for American Idol and things that don't matter, we should be able to get upwards of at least 500,000 or 1 million. That's what I would love to see that. So please, go to regulations.gov, go to wewillnotbesilenced.org, go to blocktheirs.com, and wherever you go, put the comments in. Like Kimberly said, get 5 people that aren't here. Put it on your social networks. This is an all-hands-on-deck call to action. If you leave here with one thought tonight, it is to put a comment in, to make someone else, to get someone else informed, to get your husband or your daughter or whoever else. That kid's sitting at home in your basement. Probably not if you're not a liberal, but make them put a comment in too. So now we're going to answer some questions that we've got here. Now, anyone who wants to jump in, just jump in. Does anyone know who is ordering the IRS to act illegally? I have a clue. Got really big ears.
A liar in chief.
This is a really big White House. Go ahead, Kimberly.
I would say it's the same people. Am I on?
Turns out he's the other one.
You have to push the little button on the...
There we go. I would say the same people.
Do the other one.
Can you all hear me now? Okay. We'll just use this one then. The same people that are telling the Department of Justice to persecute people in other ways as well. This is just in my observation and in talking to a lot of different people. This is a concerted effort across the board. And I think, it's something I failed to mention earlier. This night is specifically about the IRS. But this entire administration is all about squashing free speech. It's all about intimidating individuals. Before working with Americans for Prosperity, I actually was working with James O'Keefe, and I was organizing all of our investigations. And you know, I'd heard James's story, and Anita can attest to this too. If anyone knows about this stuff, it's Anita, right? But the type of intimidation that we faced on a daily basis from not just local level governments, but from the Department of Justice, from the federal government, from U.S. attorneys, just in trying to ask questions. That's all we're doing. Asking questions and trying to tell the truth. So this is a concerted effort across the board to intimidate anyone who dares to question what's happening in Washington. So, is that a specific answer? Can I give you a name? No, but I mean, just know that it's a much broader reach than just IRS regulations that would intimidate all of us on the stage.
Well, keep in mind, it's also Saul Alinsky and Antonio Gramsci and Karl Marx, these people who are being indoctrinated into the minds of our children by veterans of the days of the 60s and 70s when those ideologies were commonplace. We have to be just as ideological in our opposition. Now, I do know someone with Project Veritas that went underground in the battleground Texas, and he said those people are terrifying. They're machines. Their meetings are not patting each other on the back and saying, hey, how have you been, how's the dog? They get in, they lock the doors, and they say, okay, everyone, shut up. Here's your job. Do this, do this, do this. Report back this day with this accomplished. It's not a country club. It's not a game to them. They want to take this land from us, and they're doing it little by little. So we have to be just as passionate, just as disciplined, and just as resolute in our resistance.
I would say too, I taught government and economics for 35 years, and I never, ever have seen the bureaucracy or the cabinet departments running things and making decisions like they are now. And it's just totally unbelievable to me that a cabinet department can make a decision and in essence, be making legislation and making regulations that they're just supposed to be paper pushers. They're just supposed to carry out what Congress passes and tells them to do. And that is frightening.
This is an interesting question here that I'm not sure that I have the answer to. Is there a limit to how many times that one individual can submit comments? Does anyone know the answer to that one? A limit to how many times we can submit comments? One person can.
We can try it. I would just say try as many times as you want.
Yeah, try as many times. Yes, sir.
It's probably going to depend on whether or not you have to provide your name and all that information and your email address, zip code, and so they can cross-check. And so if you submit more than one, and the information is...
Exactly. It may be done per email address.
I think, though, if I remember correctly in dealing with regulatory comment back in my past life, I do think it's possible that you can submit more than one comment. You know, if you're talking, let's just say you submit a comment that's speaking specifically to the C3 issue, then you go back and submit a comment that's speaking specifically to the C4 issue. Because you're addressing different parts of the regulation, as long as you do it that way, you can probably get by with getting in more than one comment. But of course, as many as you have time to get them in. They have to respond.
Now, another question here is, what can our elected U.S. reps and speakers do to effectively address this in Congress? Now,
at the moment,
stop being violent.
it seems like at the moment nothing, because the House can pass anything they want, but it can't get through the Senate. Even if it gets through the Senate, you know who's going to veto it.
So do anyone here want to address that?
I believe there was regulation a bill of some kind that just made it through the Ways and Means Committee this week. I haven't had a chance to read the bill, but I do know that they are working on something in the House, and I believe Jeff Flake, don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, I believe Jeff Flake is the one who's co-sponsoring the bill in the Senate. I think ultimately where we're going to be successful is, of course, in addition to the homework I gave you, get on the phones, call your representatives, flood their lines, but really where we're going to be successful with this is the way that we've been successful in combating a lot of these other things, which is just making a lot of noise. Of course, commenting is crucial, but making a lot of noise, that's how you're going to get attention, that's how you're going to force these people to action. And it has to be to the scale that we tried to prevent Obamacare, that we tried to prevent the stimulus bill from passing. And I know everyone in this room is taking this seriously, but a lot of people aren't. So,
it's nothing, this is all going through IRS rules. What's that going to do?
The whole thing, we have to continue to fight back. It doesn't matter whether or not it gets to a point where we're tired. If we give up, it's going to get worse. They're not going to stop. They're not until they silence us completely. Think about what will happen in the Hillary years, which is coming up very rapidly, guys, if we don't do something about it. Our country will never be the same. So even though it seems hopeless and it seems like we're not getting where we should be, we have to continue to fight. We can never let them go unopposed. And just a couple, and I want to thank my speakers for coming out tonight. A couple of housekeeping things just to go over with you guys. Remember, regulations.gov. Please get out there and submit your comments. And I wanted to also highlight a new organization that has just set up shop here in Texas. I'm really excited about it because it's targeting our youth. It's called Generation Opportunity. Corey Whalen is headed, working with them. Corey, could you stand up and wave to everyone? If you want to, the youth vote is so important, guys, that you have to understand what they have been doing in our schools and the training academies and everything that they're out there pushing these activists who think they're trying to save the world, but they're actually ruining our country. So if we can engage our young people, it is crucial. So make sure you stop and talk to Corey and ask her how you can get involved, either sign up for the emails or support them or let them know, welcome them to Houston. And go to regulations.gov. But thank you guys. Go over there, put your comments in. We will have the computers open as long as there's people who want to submit them. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.